Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Hot Program. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, folks, I am in airplane mode. And now a man who, if he had written the Bible's book of Genesis, would have named the Garden of Eden the Aleph Garden. A man who needed Aleph Garden.
That's why it's funny.
I see. The Aleph Garden. There we go.
It's the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet.
Is it? Oh, it's like, is that where alpha comes from?
Alpha. No, I think the Greeks might have come up with that on their own, although the Hebrews did use Phoenician letters. I'm not sure if the Greeks did too. I think they did too.
All right.
But I don't know that it stayed that way. It might have begun that way to some degree.
All right, well, let's jump right into it. So today we are talking about Rebekah Davis, everybody's favorite friendly YouTube evangelist / apologist, who has just gone straight into Benny Hinn territory with her claims of leg lengthening miracles. So before we jump into that, we're just going to take a quick look at sort of a debunking here from Holy Kool-Aid. Just shows there's multiple ways to do this. We're going to try to get through this pretty quickly, so we're probably not going to give a ton of commentary because we just want you guys to see the techniques that people use when they're doing this charlatanry. All right, so here's the first one. It's called the slip-on shoe method.
It's like a magician's trick. Essentially, what they do is if someone comes in with slip-on shoes, they can lift the shoes up, and as they're lifting them up, they take this part of the heel and they can slide the shoe off and on. Now, you don't want to slide it completely off or else it's difficult to get back on and that gives it away. So I'm showing you for the camera, but all you're going to do is just pull it a little bit off the foot and then shift it back on. So off and on, off and on. If as I lift them up, I slide it off a little bit, now it looks like this foot right here is shorter than this one here.
Other one too. Oh, look at that.
W.B. Grant has actually gotten really good at it over the years because he's done it so many times that he'll do it one-handed, where he kind of holds it like this and shifts it with one hand.
Father, in the name of Jesus.
But literally all he's doing is taking this shoe right here and slowly shifting it back on.
Give him a new spine. Here it comes in Jesus' name. It's growing out. Hallelujah. Look.
All right.
Give him a new spine.
Let's go to the next one. This one's called shifting the ankle. Sounds crazy. I don't know, sounds terrible on this.
For the second method, instead of actually pulling the shoe off of the heel, all you have to do is just shift the angle of the person's ankle. So you're just moving the ankle backwards and forward. So take his ankles, and as I'm lifting him up, I just kind of bring this one up like that, and it looks like this foot is shorter than this foot. So then all you have to do is just slowly shift them into place, and it looks like his leg grew out.
It's a miracle.
There's actually a Christian movie called American Gospel that I thought did a really good breakdown of how Todd White does this.
Now we're going to see Todd White's clip sped up quite a bit and looped back and forth. Now this is where we can see what's really going on here. The leg on our right is supposed to be the short leg, and this is the leg which should be miraculously growing, but it's not. Look at the leg on our left. That's where all the action is. That's what's actually being manipulated. You can see that Todd is actually pivoting or shifting the foot of the so-called long leg so that the heels match. He's doing this very slowly over time, but it's painfully obvious when you speed up the clip.
All right, method number 3.
Oh, Jesus! Lord, in the name of Jesus. Oh, my God. Still no charge. Do you see what's taking place? It's going longer, folks.
For this third one, it's probably less used than a lot of the others, but it can be used in combination with them in order to make it look exaggerated and to accentuate the growth. But basically, instead of lifting his leg straight up, you lift him up to the side a little bit. So I'm exaggerating here in order for you to see more of it, but like if I do it way to the side, it looks like this one's longer and this one's shorter. And as you want to make it straight again, you move the feet back into place. So off to the side, back to the middle.
Do you see what's taking place?
If you do it just a little bit, then it's like, okay, it doesn't really seem like I'm moving him too far to the left or to the right, but it's adding a full inch right there.
You can see Todd White doing that here. Sometimes Todd is a little more subtle than others.
And then if you use that in combination with the ankle trick, oh, look how much it's growing.
Yes, you can use these together. Yes, when you combine them,
bring the afflicted to
when
the
you
stage,
combine them,
seat
that's when we get
then
sexy.
miraculously grow the leg 2 to 3 inches.
Thank you. So for this last trick, you really need to have a willing participant who is in on the con. He is going to be
and this is actually what I think a lot of these folks are
his
doing.
hips in order to make it look like they're growing and shrinking. But if you in the audience don't know that he's in on it, and you genuinely think that I am a faith healer, it's amazing what people will fall for. As he puts his legs up on some type of a platform or chair or something, he shifts his hips to make it look like one leg is longer than the other. So he's shifted his hips. This leg appears to be quite a bit longer than that one. And as I pray over him as a faith healer, Jesus, in the name of Jesus, I command this leg to grow, straighten, in Jesus' name, same length, bam, he's shifted his hips. Amazing, it's a miracle. Now, if you do it slowly and you're just kind of shifting your hips slowly, it's very hard to notice, especially if you're in the audience and there's all this hollering and cheering and stuff. You've got camera close-ups on the legs that are just showing this angle right here.
Everyone watch the monitors.
Then you're probably not going to realize exactly what's going on. But all that's going on is, as I'm praying, he's slowly shifting his hips back and forth, but slightly less exaggerated than that.
Hey everybody, it's almost 2 in the morning, so I'm just shooting this last bit on my phone. But after I filmed this whole video, I realized that there's actually technically a 5th method of pulling off this trick, and possibly a 6th, if not more, which really just goes to show that just because you think that you might know how something is done, there's usually other creative ways to pull off the same trick. But that said, I hope that this video has given you a lot to think about. I hope that it's shined a light.
All right, y'all. So there's lots of ways to do it. Here's another thing I find particularly disgusting. Here's a clip here of a similar thing being done, but you can see it's being done with a child. Right, and then you've got the whole place hooping and hollering about this girl's leg being lengthened. Quick shout out to Titan Uranus for helping me kind of pull some of these clips together in the 11th hour. Really appreciate that, Titan. Also, y'all, we're trying to help out our homegirl Lina. Lina really needs our help right now. Just going through a lot of different things financially. I don't necessarily want to put them all out there on air, but trust me, the help is much needed and urgent. So there's a link in the description. Lina set up Ko-Fi. So please do go to that Ko-Fi and donate what you can. Really appreciate that, y'all. All right, so let's go ahead and start really getting into what we're here to talk about, which is what Rebekah Davis has been up to. You know how these apologists are. They go away, you kind of forget about them. They're in the background for a while. They come back, and they even wilder than they were the last time. And I think that's definitely what's up with Rebekah. So there's a bunch of this. This was a 2-hour stream that Rebekah did. It was crazy. We're not going to be able to review all of it. Most of y'all know how to find your way to the Bread of Life channel if you want to see the whole thing, if you want additional context or just to see everything that went down. But I'm gonna try to make sure we hit a lot of the high notes. All right, so let's start with we're about 7 minutes and 40 seconds in. This is when she's kind of getting into the story. She's been doing a lot of preamble prior to this, but just to keep us, just to constrain the time, y'all, I'm just kind of jumping around. All right, so we'll start here.
I watch a lot of miracle videos on YouTube. A lot of them I think are fake. And a lot of them seem to be very real.
Yes, y'all. There's a GoFundMe for Lina too. So whichever you're more comfortable with. I have the link to the Ko-Fi down there. Pragmatic just dropped the link to the GoFundMe. Really, really appreciate all the help you can give right now.
But one of the types of miracle videos that I would see a lot in the past that really annoyed me were leg lengthening videos. Like videos where people, they were praying for someone for their leg to be lengthened, and it just annoyed me. And one of the reasons it annoyed me was because I was like, what's going on? Like, is there like an epidemic of people with legs that are too short? Why does it seem like all of these like healing evangelists are going around and finding all these people with legs that are too short and praying for them? And, you know, why is it that like it's always a leg thing, right?
All right. So this is just part of what we're going to be talking about throughout this. And it's an extreme level of cognitive dissonance that we're dealing with. And it's a dangerous level of cognitive dissonance, because these are the people who are painfully aware of the debunking of the nonsense before they even get into this particular nonsense, and then they jump into it anyway with the rationalization that it was just special or different in their case. And so that's a big part of why we have to look at this. It's not just the oh silly point and laugh, somebody's doing miracle working, oh silly point and laugh, aren't apologists dumb. This is an insane level of cognitive dissonance for you to realize that something has been debunked, that it's a common scam, that it's all over the place, and then you fall into it anyway. I just, that's what scares me.
And so that bothered me. And it also just bothered me that it seemed like a lot of it could be faked, right? It seems like, okay, you could pull on the shoe, or you could adjust the person's leg without them realizing it. And in fact, at one time I was like trying to get my husband to see if he could pull on my leg and make it look like my leg was growing. And we were like trying this out because I was like, how are they doing this? Like, are they faking it? Okay, well, we couldn't really fake it without the person being aware of it. Like my husband would like kind of pull on my leg, but I would feel it. And so we weren't really sure how people were faking it, although some videos look like they could be faked. And then, but I also looked up to see, like, are there really that many people with short legs? Like, and
there's another thing here too, which is that they like don't, how do I put this? They're super naive about how easy it is to get people in on these things. They just assume, well, there's no way the person, could be in on it, which is ridiculous. There's so many cases that it's obvious the person's in on it. And then the other thing is the person doesn't have to be quote unquote in on it to go along with the sort of social thing that's happening, right?
Right. They get caught up in the moment of it all, the ceremony of it all.
Yes. And then they see what the pastor's doing. They perceive the same thing the audience do. Then everybody starts hooping and hollering and singing and praising Jesus. Like, yeah, they will deal with it after the fact, but it's not something you can expect to be candid about in the moment. The other thing is, you never see these people on their way up. Like you always see them like they're already in the seated position.
You never see them walk to the podium.
Yeah, exactly.
And it turns out there are. And I just want to share with those of you who aren't aware of this. This is actually a real problem that a lot of people have. Okay, and you can look this up very easily, and I will put the links in the description later. Well, you can just look it up. Just look up leg lengthening discrepancy, and you will find a ton of articles on this. Here's some more. But it turns out like between 40 and 70% of the population have some sort of leg inequality.
Okay, I think this is just a widely overblown. I don't know if she's like, look, we say citation needed when we're dealing with people, but when you're dealing with these people, it's citation needed, and then you need to read it yourself. Because
still need to read it.
You still need to read it yourself, because that just seems like a crazy high number. And also, like, people don't realize how much asymmetry is in the human body. Your hands are not exactly the same size. Your legs are not going to be exactly the same length. It's how much of it rises to a level of being a clinical problem, right? Causing a hitch in the way you walk, causing some sort of, damage to your spine or something like that. That's what we're really talking about.
Yeah.
And the other thing,
why would God make us that way?
That's what I was just getting ready to ask. I don't understand how this makes any sense. You're supposed to be the creationist. You're supposed to believe it. So is God up there in heaven somehow limping around with one eye, with cancer growing out of his neck? Because that seems to be the image of God that we see in humanity. What kind of sense under evolutionary framework, under naturalist framework, this makes perfect sense. But when God is making perfect copies of his image coming off the line, why are their legs not the same length so frequently? That right there should be doubt of this idea that we are created in this perfect image of God. And instead, no, it's just a wonderful opportunity for God to now show his power through miraculous healing.
You got nothing to add, obviously.
Oh yeah, I was waiting. All right.
No, it's okay.
My biggest complaint about the leg lengthening miracles, because I realized, okay, it is a real thing. Like, okay, there's tons of like these advertisements for fixing your leg length differences, but a lot of people don't even know that they have a leg length difference, but it does affect them. It can affect their back, their hip, whatever. So it is actually a real thing that a lot of people suffer with. So that kind of satisfied me a little bit, but I was still skeptical about leg lengthening. Now, so that's the background. And then, okay, now I'm going to get to the miracle part, okay? So on September 1st, 2022, okay, I went
Kyle
to
said,
if
a miracle fails to work on you, it's your fault in believer's conception. Something about sin causing suffering of all kinds, probably. We're going to get there. Oh,
I got a personal story to share, Kyle. I think you'll enjoy it. Go ahead, Pakman. We'll get there.
Christians, led by a guy named Tom, to go out and pray for people. And Tom goes out and he prays for people for healing, and he teaches other people how to do that.
All right, y'all, Tom is a central character.
I went on a trip to go meet up with Tom and his group to pray for people. So we went around, we prayed for some people, and then we were almost done, and the last people that we encountered that we prayed for were these two teenage boys. And Tom went up to them and he was like, hey, do you guys have any health problems? Like, we pray and God heals people. We'd like to pray for you. And these two teenage boys said, no, we don't have any health problems. And Tom said, okay, well, would you like to see a miracle right now? And they were like, sure.
All right, pause the tape. How weird is all of this? How weird is it just like going around? You have to remember, in my mind, this is like hunting almost. Like they're literally going around looking to exploit people with medical conditions. Like just walking around. Anybody here got a medical issue I can perform a miracle on?
Oh, you followed up with a request for a donation.
Yeah, and then they just say, oh well. Oh no, you don't have any health problems? All right, well, you want to see a miracle anyway? Like this is literally just
exactly.
It's just like the magician who works the restaurant and is just like going from table to table. You guys want to see a magic trick? Do you guys want to see a magic trick? It's just just weird.
Neither one of them were really believers in God. As far as I can remember, I don't remember if they said that they were like specifically non-believers. I don't know. But anyway, basically, both of them at least said they had never seen a miracle. And Tom said, would you like to see one now? And they said, yes. And so before Tom looked at their legs or anything, he said, okay, a lot of people have one leg that's too short or one leg that's, a different length. So I'm going to check your legs. And if one of you has a leg of a different length, I'm going to grow it out right in front of your eyes. God is going to do that. And
so now again, you walking up to people who literally say, we don't have any ailments. Nah, we're good to go. They're probably walking around just fine. So like, what are we talking about, y'all? What are we talking about? I want to see a person was walking like this. Like they have to just their one leg is so short that every time they step, half their body just tilts over like they're gonna fall, right? And you don't have to ask no questions about whether or not one leg is longer than the other. It's just gonna be so obvious, right? And then you're just gonna stretch Armstrong that thing.
Look, hey, pocket locker. Pocket locker. I can make it easy on them. My mother is an amputee. So
there you go.
I'll just wheel her on over. She's a good sport. And she's a Christian. Haha. I'll wheel her on over and they can lay hands on her or whatever. Heck, I will fly them to Alabama to where she lives. And I'll record it. We could do it live, hot program live. Watch a leg not magically regrow. It's another miracle from the power of Jesus
and
Christ.
This is going to be something we get into even more, but because it'll come up. But of course, even here, you're just going, I just want to see a person verified having issues with the way they walk, with can never do sports or certain activities. Doctors say yes, this is a candidate for leg lengthening surgery. They go to church one Sunday, doctor comes back and says you're no longer a candidate for leg lengthening surgery. Instead, what we're supposed to get is people that we never see any documentation that this is an issue. Matter of fact, from the stories we hear, sounds like they walking around the mall just like you walking around the mall. And then we're supposed to believe that really what God needs to do is show his power to literally increase a leg by a length that's not even noticeable, and people are questioning. Like, it's just all so weak and so silly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, SWE's in the house. Hey, Sophia, we're gonna go with that. All right, so good to see you. Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. Absolutely.
You can record it and everything. And if one of your legs, and neither one of you have a leg problem like that, then I'm still going to grow out one of your legs and then I'll put it back. Okay. So the first kid that he looked at, he did have one leg that was shorter than the other, not too much, but slightly. And so Tom had his friend get out his camera and take a video of it. And that friend, and so then, Tom prayed for the kid's foot and said, it basically commanded the foot in the name of Jesus, come out. And so his shorter leg grew out to the length of the other leg. And that was captured on camera. His friend was like, whoa. And then Tom was like, okay, let's try you now. Because your friend didn't get to see that because it was his own leg. So the friend had, didn't have a leg difference. His legs were equal. But Tom was like, well, I still want you to be able to see the miracle. So, basically get your camera ready and I'm going to grow out this leg and then I'll put it back. And so Tom commanded that kid's leg to come out, and it did. I don't remember how much. It's been too long now, but it came out a noticeable amount. And then Tom commanded the leg to go back, and it went back. Okay, so that was
mind blown.
I just first off, where's the tape, Rebekah? Rebekah, we want to see the tape. Rebekah, this is not no tape that you just take on your little camcorder and you put it on a bookshelf with your nephew's, bar mitzvah tape, and we'll just get back to it sometime. This is tape that would set the world ablaze. This is tape that would be all over every major news source. This is tape. There would be no atheist YouTube because there'd just be a bunch of people who would be atheists sitting there talking to you about the tape. That's what we just call it, the tape. You wouldn't even have to explain what you mean when you say the tape. It would just be known, single word, famous, the tape. Okay, and instead, no, of course. And then if your God ain't the most trivialist punk son of a bitch I done ever run across in my life, that he's gonna miraculously extend your leg and then put it back. Okay, no.
Let me
wow, that almost sounds unbelievable.
So my best friend is double jointed, and he can bend his fingers back to where they touch the back of the palm of his hand.
Oh my goodness.
Now, let's assume that, let's not assume. Let's just create an example. It's a similar situation. One guy is a charlatan, and his friend is a charlatan who's double jointed or something of that nature, or a contortionist, right? Who's developed the ability, either naturally or through practice, to make his legs different lengths and make it be dramatic so that he could even do it without shoes on or socks on. So you see just his bare feet and his bare legs lengthen without any of the methods that Holy Kool-Aid and others demonstrate. It's still not a miracle, right? Just like my best friend, it's still not a miracle. It's just somebody with a unique natural ability that you're not used to seeing. But what surrounds that is the guise of a miracle, because someone said, I'm going to do something miraculous.
I know, and this is just super cool. If you guys look into it, there are leg lengthening surgeries. It is a thing that people,
it's brutal, yeah.
People need in many cases. Other times people seem to do it for cosmetic reasons, like people seem to do it as a way to get taller, for instance.
Yeah.
Which, some people might even say that's still a medical need. But it's a serious procedure and it's a serious thing. And again, look at what we've been able to do and achieve with medicine. And so to me, it's just cruel to sort of thumb your nose in those people's faces by pretending that there's a miraculous healing that would obviate the need for that surgery. And then again, that your God just wants to show off. So he just wants to pop it out, show he can make your legs the same length and have you be on your way. But then he's going to put it back, because I don't testing your faith or something. I'm not really sure. But that's literally like, that's what she's claiming. It's what she's claiming is going on.
It's like the last people and then Tom shared with them about Jesus, and, neither one of them that I can remember put their faith in Christ right then, but it's not uncommon for Tom to pray for people and they get healed, and then he should.
And just quick, put a pin in that, y'all. My man goes to the mall. I don't know, they weren't at a mall, but wherever they were, he does the miracle healing, and then they don't give their like they witness the awesome power of God, and they're like, let's go to Sbarro and get some pizza. Like just. Sure, y'all.
And they receive Christ.
It's a lot.
But in that case, neither one of those boys was ready to do that. Well, that was our last people that we were praying for the day. And Tom said to all of us who were on the prayer team, he said, do you want to do that? And we were like, yeah. And so he had us sit down, and he was like, okay, I'm going to show you how to do this. And basically,
Rebekah, you are the product. This is just something people are now told when it comes to thinking about economics. If someone wants to give you something of value for free, it's because you are the product.
I like how Tom had the ability to give Rebekah the Holy Spirit so that she can perform miracles in the name of Jesus. That's fantastic.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You're going to command it,
And just so people know, we understand, when people say you are the product, what they mean is, think about like the Super Bowl or the World Series, right? I always tell people the most famous sporting events in the world, they're given away on free TV. Why? Because they don't want to sell you an admissions ticket just to watch the game, like they put it on pay-per-view. No, they want to sell advertisers your eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
So they want you to watch it for free. So that way advertisers pay them millions and millions of dollars to do what? Get to you. That's what we say you are the product. And this is the same thing here. Rather than trying to convert these people or trying to get bucks from them, it's you turn to the believers and the prayerful and the people who also want this superpower, and you're going to them. Would you like to be? I can teach you how to be a miracle worker. Rebekah, you are the product.
The leg to grow, and it's going to grow. And our legs were already at equal. They were both the same. So I don't remember who went first. I can't remember if I went first or this other lady that he partnered with me grew out my leg first. Okay, that's the part of the story I don't remember. Don't remember who went first. I think it was her praying for me, but I'm not sure. But basically, she prayed for me and picked a leg, and that leg of mine grew out probably about an inch. And then she commanded it to go back, and it went back. And I felt it.
Then, all right, now here's the second part of this message. When it comes to the Bread of Life channel, Rebekah's audience, you are the product. Because literally, this is now what she's selling us. She experienced a miracle herself. She went to the miracle working workshop. The woman sat down, said, legio extendioso. Right, and her leg went out a good inch, y'all. Y'all know how much an inch is? An inch is a lot. An inch is a lot. Look around you. Try to identify something that's about an inch. I don't know. Maybe I got a roach. This roach might be an inch and a half or something. It's a noticeable.
It's significant in terms of
or so.
Your leg growing, you're gonna notice that.
It's a lot. You're gonna feel something and all of that. And then again, just to keep it secret, we don't want anybody to know our super secret techniques and how powerful they are. We're just gonna put it back. We're just gonna undo that way.
Exactly.
That way they're not on touch.
We don't want you limping around, Rebekah. That creates other issues. Then you have to come back, and I got to work on your hip. So I'm just gonna lengthen this, gonna put it back.
It's just so weird.
I didn't feel her pulling on it. I felt my leg grow. Then, okay, so again, not sure if that happened first or it was my turn, but on my turn, I was holding her legs, and I was like, okay, I really want to make sure I'm not pulling on her leg. I want to make sure I'm like holding it, like regular. I'm not going to pull on it. And, just don't want any funny business here. Like, I want to know if this is real. So I, Tom was like, okay, command her leg to come out. Just pick one and tell it to come out. And so I did. And her leg came out. It grew somewhere around an inch. And
yes, Sumami, the leg growing trick. Yes, that is what she is slinging. Look, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Look, I have not talked about Rebekah Davis in a long time, and I'm gonna be honest with y'all. It's Pride Month. Rebekah Davis is an ally. I was literally on team. Let's just leave Rebekah alone. Let's just let her do her thing. I'm not here. Y'all notice I am not calling her traditional moniker. any of those things I normally do when it comes to Rebekah, because I was literally just going to leave this woman alone. But I saw this stream, and this Actually, to be honest, her last couple scenes were really bad, but this one, I just couldn't, y'all. I was like, I can't. This woman has literally gone full Benny Hinn leg lengthening miracle worker. Sorry, I gotta cut you. Sorry. I couldn't ignore this. I couldn't. I'm not that disciplined.
I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then I started commanding it to go back. Well, in the meantime, somebody was tapping on Tom and he started talking to someone else. And I could not get this lady's leg to go back. Tom was off talking to somebody. And I'm like, commanding the leg, go back in Jesus' name, go back in Jesus' name. And this leg was not moving back, and I was starting to get nervous.
Yeah, look. I'm gonna just say this: the further and further I get from being a Christian, the sillier and sillier prayer sounds to me.
Yeah, right? it can be tough.
Yeah, just like whispering at clouds, you know, it's kind of deal. But can y'all imagine just them in a room like commanding? Like that scene is hilarious to me.
It's freaking. It's like freaking yourself and your friends out with a Ouija board. Yes. Like, wait, did it just respond? Oh my gosh, they're spirits.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're Rebekah, if you watch this, I just want you to understand that the person whose leg that you believed you lengthened could be trying to trick you. So if it doesn't immediately go back and that's what you've prayed, it could be a way to further convince you that you actually had the power to do it. I don't know where she's going on the story is to say when Tom returned, he prayed, and because when, two or more Christians come together and pray for anything, Jesus makes it a reality. And now her leg goes back to the link. It's restored. What this also does is it scares Rebekah potentially into not trying it again on her own to see if it works on another person.
Oh yeah, that's exactly what we're getting into. We should let her go. This is all a great setup, man. Like,
because it was like an inch too long, and what am I gonna do? I mean, so I was like, Tom, I need your help. This leg is not going back. And Tom was like, you're thinking too much. Why are you thinking? You just command it like a dog. Tell it to go back now. And so I did, and then it went back. Okay. Now, I just, then like we had some time where
that's tough, right? And again, you're thinking too much. I don't even know what to do with that. We should let her keep going. But I saw your reaction.
Talking, asking Tom questions and stuff, and then we prayed, and then we left. Well, my mind was pretty blown at this point because I knew what I experienced, and I knew that this was real. I saw it several times. I saw it from every angle with the first kids, with myself, with this other lady. And I was like, wow, God, I'm so sorry. I've misjudged you. I didn't know it was so easy. I didn't know that you were so willing to do these things. I think I had been treating God as if he was like miserly with miracles, where I was like in the habit of kind of begging God to do miracles and, not really having faith, even though I was trying to have faith, but I just was like, my mind was blown and I was kind of repenting like, Lord, I'm so sorry. I've treated you that way. And wow, this is amazing. And so I was just kind of in a state and, I'm off by myself on this trip and I was just enjoying that. But then something happened. I started telling people about it. I think my husband was the first person I called my sister, called my friends, and no one had a positive reaction to this. Everyone was like,
no one.
I don't know.
Pocket Locker, can you pause it real quick?
Yeah.
Of course, they believe.
Surprise, surprise! That is unexpected hits you between the eyes.
But seriously, oh my goodness, like what is, and that's the cognitive dissonance. Like, of course they didn't believe.
I think Crystal brought that up. Confirmation bias.
Yes.
They know I'm not a liar like that, and so they believed that, you know, what I was saying was true as far as I was concerned.
This is coming up too.
Had a really hard time believing that, you know, this could really happen. Now, let me say this. Interestingly, my husband actually had a leg that was too short. Okay. He was born with his left leg like twisted up and like all this stuff. And his left leg was maybe, I don't know, a centimeter or two shorter than his right leg. So I already knew that he had a leg that was too short. And so I thought, okay, he doesn't believe this, but when I get home, I'm going to pray for his leg. So I get home and then I'm like, Jeremy, let me pray for your leg. I think this is going to work. Like, I just saw this. It was amazing, you know, and so I'm holding Jeremy's legs. I'm praying for his leg to come out. Nothing happens. Okay. Nothing happens. His leg is still too short. And I prayed until I got tired of holding his legs. Like, his legs were getting heavy. Okay. So I gave up and I was like, okay, that didn't work. Maybe, you know, maybe I've just gone wrong. Maybe this, you know, I was still like having all this like confusion and, you know, just not sure about how to process this experience. Why won't my husband's leg grow? Anyway, so remember, that was the beginning of September. Now, interestingly, I had another trip planned.
And I got to say too, like,
30th.
How many of y'all think Rebekah's husband doesn't have medical coverage, medical care, any of that shit? How many of y'all think Rebekah's living in poverty? Not many, right? So what does it mean that she's always known her husband's leg is shorter than the other, but nobody's ever done anything about it? This is what I'm saying, y'all. Nobody's limbs, none. Your fingers ain't the same. These two hands are not the same size. Your two eyes are not the same size. They're not perfectly level. Everybody has asymmetries in the terms of limbs being slightly different size and not perfectly symmetrical. Nobody has perfect symmetry. Like, that's fake. Literally, we have to make fake faces to make them perfectly symmetrical. So again, it's your God is doing this miracle that is subclinical. It is just a thing your husband's been living with his entire life. He probably has played sports. He's probably fit. He probably exercises. He work out. He go to the gym. He can play with his kids. It is not meaningfully influenced his life in any way, but this is the miracle y'all are after. And it just says a lot. It just says a lot.
Well, I wonder if I chatted with Rebekah, and I told her, Rebekah, look, I have a heart condition. I have cardiomyopathy and I have diabetes. So should I spend the money to travel to you so that you can lay hands on me? Should I spend the money, or is that money better spent on, you know, things for my wife and my daughter? Is the baby's not born yet?
She would say no. See, that's the other thing. She's very.
I wonder what she would say, because she seems very sweet. When we spoke to her, she seemed very sweet. She just clearly believed things differently than we did.
Right. Yeah, that's how she is. But no, she's go to your doctor, take your meds. She says that.
I flew to Toronto, Canada to go to my Afghan friend's wedding. Okay. So family from Afghanistan that I knew when I lived in Turkey, and my very good friend was now in Canada. Her family was in Canada, and she was about to get married. So I went to Toronto for her wedding. The night before the wedding, September 30th, I fly in and I'm at her family's house, big family. We're all sitting around in the living room together. and they asked me to pray for Uncle so-and-so. I don't remember the guy's name. They said, can you please pray for Uncle so-and-so because he has a leg that's 1.5 inches too short. And he's going to have to, they say he's going to have surgery. They're going to have to like basically break the bone and do something to it because this is like causing debilitating pain for him to walk around like that all the time. And so, you know, I had prayed with these friends a lot in the past and we had seen God do wonderful things. So they really believed in my prayers and they asked me to pray for his leg. Now, I was blown away because never in my life have I ever had anyone ask me to pray for a leg that was too short. Never. I've prayed for a lot of ailments. I've never had anyone request me to pray for their leg because it was too short. So I was like, God, you are amazing. You prepared me for this. You knew his leg was too short. You knew they would ask me to pray. And here, just a few weeks ago, I was with Tom. He taught me to pray for this. I felt like that everything was coming together and we were about to witness this huge miracle of the uncle's leg growing out.
Magical white lady.
It would be.
I don't buy the story.
Well, normally
don't buy the story.
Yeah, it's Hollywood movies that give you this sort of fascinating tale.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Like, first off, I think there's always the seed planted. So when she looks back on this and she sees this wild coincidence, there was not a coincidence. Somebody in that relationship, she mentioned this too, right? She talked about her trip or how she's been, you know, struggling with miracles or how she went on a trip and she told that leg lengthening story. Because again, we're supposed to believe that she just links up with her Turkish family in Canada or whatever. And then out of nowhere, even though Rebekah's never prayed for a healing miracle before, there's just something about her aura from the Holy Spirit being within her that they were like, you know what? I think Rebekah can take care of this. I think Uncle really doesn't need to have surgery because Rebekah's here. Like, I'm sorry, y'all. Like, that's magical missionary bullshit. That's what that is.
I must say, for this particular condition, when it's of a severity to where the person actually needs something corrective done, they do make, in case somebody like that's listening, right? Somebody might have Googled this or put it in search bar, and this is what they're getting, and they just decided to keep listening. There are specialty shoes that can be custom made to correct the height so that you can, and they have different styles so that you can enjoy yourself without the discomfort that you might have been experiencing. So those things are available. I questioned the way she's telling this story. I recently, like last week at my neighbor's birthday party for her daughter, I got to talk to a 10-year-old kid, and this is kind of how stories went. Just sort of, they don't put all the facts together. They keep putting things they should have told back here, over here, and further down the line. And she's doing the same thing. We're learning things we should have learned already. Like when she Googled how many people have this condition, she didn't mention her husband did. That would have been the perfect time to mention that. So I don't know.
It's really like I said, it's really difficult to believe that they just out of the blue asked her for this healing that coincidentally was what she's been working on. But even if so, again, it just shows you the grim reality of Christianity, that people who are in desperate situations with serious conditions that literally require surgery, they want to believe that Christians can whisper at the sky on their behalf and God will do something. And I just think that is a terrible, terrible bill of nonsense to be selling people. I think if that's what you're selling people, you got some serious soul searching to do.
If that were the possibility, if you're a Christian and you're hearing that, and that's hard to hear from Pocket Locker, consider this. If you would like to end world hunger, Shouldn't it be just as simple? Right? Jesus in the Bible, we see where he fed. The story is he fed 5,000. The story is he fed 4,000. I kind of think that's to kind of equate him to King David, but we'll see. I think these miracles, Christians given the power in Mark chapter 6, right? 16, sorry. That they're supposed to be able to have all these great abilities to lay hands on people and heal them, but they don't. They don't. It's not that they don't love. It's not that they don't care. I think most Christians probably have the sincerity and the empathy to want people to be healed and feel whole.
Yes.
But they just don't have the power.
Yeah.
Right. To do anything about it. And so we get the claim that, oh, this isn't the age of miracles. That's in times past. You know, we have to wait for Jesus to come back for that to happen. Or the Holy Spirit sparingly chooses where those miracles occur, but they're all around us because there's so many people.
Right.
So I just want to let Christians know, like, we're not without empathy. We do have empathy for you. And we know that sometimes it's difficult to rectify that in your mind. How do you reconcile these two things where you're told you should be able to perform miracles, but you can't do it? Now, Rebekah's telling us some stories here, and she's thrilled.
Well, this is ultimately the problem with this. Is Rebekah is selling the idea that they can, and that's what we're getting into, is that she is reinforcing that problematic narrative that they should be able to work miracles. Actually, they can, and she's had her breakthrough, and you can too. Let's lend a helping hand to our friend Lina. Lina's going through a lot right now, just having a tough time, and this is what community building is about. I got to remember, when people have a tough time, the one thing that the church does give them is they go to the pastor or they go to one of the mothers of the church and they say, hey, I'm having a bit of a rough time, either changes in my life, changes in my employment, changes in my housing, changes in my school, whatever it is. And then the church goes out and says, hey, this Sunday we're taking up a collection for so-and-so. And money pours in the plate, right? And then people get the assistance they need. There's even an element of that in Rebekah's stream, because somebody said they needed $200 and Rebekah prayed for it, but then also just said, hey, email me and I'll give you the $200. So the church is very well aware that supporting people in times of need is very much how you keep people in community. And so it's just really important that we do our best to do the same thing for people who are non-believers, because they deserve community and love and support too. And Lina is definitely always around to support us when we need it. So show some love to Lina. It's just telling y'all it's important that we don't just talk about it, that we be about it when people need help. So thank y'all, all y'all that are supporting or thinking about supporting or just sharing the link and encouraging others to support. All of that really matters right now. Appreciate y'all.
So, I asked the family, is it okay? Can I hold his legs up? And so I held his legs up and I started praying that his leg would grow out. And
that's right, Sophia.
Nothing happened. And it got to the point where once again, I got tired of holding the legs up and the leg wasn't growing out. And I was like, what's going on? What's going on? I was so disappointed. But at the same time, even though his leg didn't grow out, the Holy Spirit came upon everyone in the room. After I prayed for his leg, we didn't stop praying. We were praying. We continued to pray for other things. And
so
really
boom, this is just, again, I just want to emphasize the cruelty, y'all. We got little girls on stage and we can do this. We go to workshops where people, they're walking around fine. Nobody's even got any medical conditions to even report. And then God can just trivially extend the leg, put it back. It's all good. Then we finally get a real shot to really help somebody that really has a medical need, really has they're on their way to surgery. And when you know it, this is one of them times it's not in God's plan. That's just
nuts. And by the way, I want to thank Sophia for the mic and the mechanics. Mike and the Mechanics reference with their song. Thank you so much.
Nice.
The presence of the Holy Spirit, and it was awesome. But again, I didn't see the leg grow out.
Message was from.
So that night, I even stayed up because I was just so upset that his leg didn't grow out. And I want to show you, I wrote this email to Tom that night. I said, I'm visiting some friends
I want y'all to
Toronto,
see this.
and one of them surprised me by saying that he is soon to have surgery on his leg to put metal in it. Because
all right, I'm visiting. All right, yeah, she does read the email. All right, so look, let's listen to this email she reads.
That night, I said, I'm visiting some friends in Toronto, and one of them surprised me by saying that he is soon to have surgery on his leg to put metal in it because it's about 1.5 inches shorter than the other leg and has other issues. I was so excited because I've seen you pray for so many legs, and I myself prayed for the lady's leg and saw it grow when I was with you. But when I prayed for this man's leg, it didn't grow. I felt very discouraged because I know if you were here, this man would not have to have surgery. I believe we have the same Holy Spirit. So what is going wrong? I think I truly had faith that God set this up and was going to grow his leg. Thank you so much. So I was so disappointed. I was like, why didn't his leg grow? Like, why did these other legs grow that didn't even need to grow?
There you go.
Okay, didn't even need.
All right, sorry about her. And so she emailed Tom. She was just saying she was distressed because, you know, she believed it was going to happen, and she prayed, and it didn't happen, and she was so disappointed.
Going to grow his leg. Thank you so much. So I was so disappointed. I was like,
she was in distress.
Why didn't his leg grow? Like, why did these other legs grow that didn't even need to grow?
There's a cognitive dissonance. She could see it. She knows this is routinely debunked.
That's right.
She recognizes God shows it trivially when people don't even need it. And here's somebody who needs it. God doesn't show it. She's, I don't even know what to do with a person like this.
Okay, didn't even need to have somebody's leg come out and go back. You know, there's just no need for that. Why did this person's leg not grow? Who really needs it? Who actually, without this happening, is going to have surgery? And so that really troubled me. And for the next few days, I wrestled with that so much. I was like, why, God, why? And you know what was amazing? And Tom didn't answer my email, by the way, but God answered my question. And I don't want anyone to feel bad when I say this, okay? Because for me, this was not a bad thing. And I want to be careful not to weigh anyone down with any sort of judgments against themselves or anything. And I was not judging myself when God told me this, okay? It was a wonderful experience for God to tell me this. But the reason God told me that leg didn't grow, he just said, because you don't believe.
All right. And look, y'all, this is where we're getting into the heart of the matter, because this is what every problematic person says to Christians about the miracles. And I'm gonna let her play, but look, I'm gonna just get real personal with shit. I'm gonna just be straight up with you. My grandparents are in a nursing home. My grandparents go by Bishop and First Lady Priester. They have dedicated everything in their lives to Christ, including their fucking family. They have served God to the point of going broke from the very, good retirements that they earned through good, hardworking jobs. But they spent that money to keep the lights and the heat and the AC and all of that shit running. My grandparents spend their money to pay their bills to keep their church open. Why can't my grandmother control whether or not she shits herself? Y'all want to get real? Let's get real. Why can't my grandmother control whether or not she shits herself? Why is my grandfather confined to a wheelchair? Why are they on their last leg about to die? Do you gonna sit here and tell me it's because they don't have enough faith, because we don't believe hard enough? See, when shit gets real, these Christians, they don't really want to talk about it. They don't really want to go there. They don't really want to go there. But that's I'm gonna just say, y'all, that's the conversation we would have. Well, that's the conversation we would have.
The out they've been given is it's part of God's plan. And they can say, I don't know why that this situation is this way. It sounds like there's a real struggle there, and I'm sorry to hear it. But that's all part of God's plan. When they get to heaven, ...
Right. It'll all be better.
It'll all be wonderful. Hallelujah, by and by they'll fly away. So that's a sad fact. I want to share a story. Remember I said it a while ago, like I got a personal story. I've explained this on Hot Program before. So I live in Southern California in the Los Angeles area. I was in Studio City where I used to live, went to Panda Express to get some food. I limped from my car to the restaurant, and then I limped out of the restaurant. And I got my food there, and a woman comes up to me. I can heal you. I can heal you. I'm like, yeah, I got a bad ankle. I got arthritis. It's bone on bone. And she knelt down. Latino woman, she knelt down. She said a prayer, and with great joy and enthusiasm looked up at me. How do you feel? It's the same. You don't believe. That's why it didn't work. And I didn't come back at her. Lady, you just don't have magical powers like you think you do.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Right.
I didn't say anything insulting. I said, well, thank you for trying.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't want to have any fun, with her emotions or anything like that by faking that. Oh, it's a miracle!
No.
Drop my food to the ground, start dancing around like I'm in Pentecostal
That's the last thing a person like that needs.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how the rest of her day was, but no doubt she met people who did feel better. As I've mentioned before, I've studied religions. Like I'll go be with those people, like the anthropological approach.
Sure.
Faith healers. There was some video pocket locker I sent you on is either YouTube or Instagram, where it was several of these fake faith healers from various religions. I said, which one of these charlatans have I actually met? Like, I challenge you to guess which one of these dudes I've actually met. And I'll tell about it briefly. I know there's a lot to get through, but they went to a church that I went to. And at that point in time, I was an atheist. But this is like one of those spiritual centers, where everybody's welcome regardless of your faith. And it's a really impressive place to go to. And that's why I kept going there even after I didn't believe, because people were so wonderful. Well, this Zarathustra guy, that's what he goes by, who went around in a clapped out mobile home, not mobile home, RV. He and some friends had an event, and this girl I was rather sweet on invited me to go. So I went for her. I didn't go for anything else. But they did this thing where you're transported through some portal, and all that stuff. And so I couldn't resist. Like, pick me, which they did. And what was amazing about it, no, I didn't travel through space and time or some fun stuff like that. What I noticed about it, why it was so effective for people, it's because these people are making you feel special. That's what the real deal about it was. You felt special with them giving you all these attention. The music changes when you come up there, right? There's actually somebody playing music. And so that's for you. the people moving their hands around your head, your eyes are closed, and they're going shh, and stuff like that, right? All of this is your experience. So whether or not you feel like there's real magic going on, real transformation going on, it's that these people who you don't know are caring for you. They're doing something that might make you feel validated and stuff like that. And when they were finished, I just sort of opened my eyes, just like, thanks, and just sat back down. And the woman I went there to see, she's like, how was it? Like it was amazing or something. It must have looked that way to her.
So that is a huge part of the issue here, is that it makes them feel like they're doing something when they're not. And PC said that there's an element of ableism to this. Hang on, I want to find that comment. Oh, Liz actually said it. Sorry. This faith healing crap has an element of ableism. And it absolutely does. It absolutely does. First off, you have this idea that God, that we're created in this perfect image of God, right? And that image is one of an able body. And so there we definitely see people with disabilities as a deviation from the norm, if not an aberration, if not sometimes indication of like they're cursed, right? Or there's like something supernatural going on then. And then you have, of course, the fact that you have these able-bodied people who then prey on people with disabilities for their own profit. And of course, people with disabilities are excluded from that group because their very existence would put it to the lie. It's like I said with my grandparents. And this is another thing that's ableist about the entire faith, is they all buy into it. It's so easy to believe that God's on their side because they're healthy, happy, wealthy, relatively, right? But when all of a sudden they're old and like, I'll be honest with y'all, my grandparents, there's like no point in even mentioning to them at this point. There's no point even bringing up God to this point, because you look at them and you see the devastation that their faith has not upheld them. And they can say whatever they want about it really being all about the eternity and it really being about the afterlife, and they can't wait to meet their maker and all this shit. We don't know any of that. The one life we know we have is this one. And when you start to lose it, when your body starts to betray you, it is absolutely terrifying. And so you don't even need to rub it in their faces, because you can look at them and you can see the fact that they're devastated, that their God has not held them up throughout the situation, and you can see the desperation. It's very crazy, but it's very real. When you see people who are for real going through the end of the life, and they really see and they know their bodies are betraying, they know their bodies are deteriorating. It's a reality check that words cannot even express. And so yeah, there's just a ton of that in Christianity, where that the experience of people who have disabilities or later or whatever, that's just not even considered. And when it does happen, it's a lot harder to believe you're blessed and touched and all of this stuff. They feel betrayed. All right, let's see what Rebekah's got for us.
And
we've been having a great conversation.
When God told me that, I knew it was true. And you can't imagine the joy I had in
Liz
getting
Allen,
that
that's like one of the comments of
because
the day. That's
you
so
don't
good.
believe. It was so simple and it was so true. And I realized, oh my gosh, God's right. I don't believe. And I started thinking about the experience that I had with the lady, and how when Tom wasn't over there looking, I couldn't do it. And so anyway, I was so happy with this revelation because it gave me something to work with. It gave me something that I knew I could work on in myself. And
now there it is. That is Rebekah being very candid and very honest, and in a sense saying the quiet part out loud, but you hear it there. I get this answer from God. God actually tells me it's because I don't believe. And then that's comforting because my lack of belief is at least something she can do something about. It says a lot. It says a lot.
And I don't want to make this about, oh, you know, if you need a miracle and it doesn't happen, that's because your faith is lacking. I don't want to do that to anyone, and we should never do that to anyone. If someone is praying with you for a miracle and it doesn't happen, do not blame the person. Okay, this is.
But doesn't she just accept the fact that she didn't truly believe and essentially blamed herself?
Yes. 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 Absolutely.
And all these puzzle pieces fit together.
And again, she knows that. That's why she has to put all this. That's why she has to put the Surgeon General's, warning on
warning there,
because she knows that she's feeding directly into the narrative that it's the lack of faith that is the reason miracles don't manifest, whether it's the lack of belief in the one performing the miracles or the lack of belief in the one receiving the miracles. They're both they're just different branches of the same story, which is somebody in this picture doesn't have enough faith. And she knows that, so she just has to say, let me just say I'm not doing that. And again, this is part of like the weaponized thing with Christians, especially those that are like majoritarian Christians. There's so much privilege in the fact that they think they can just say things like, I can just say I'm not doing this bad thing, and then I can just go ahead and say what I want to say, right? Because I've said that I'm not doing this. So you can't say that I'm doing that because I said I'm not doing that. And it's like, Rebekah, that's not how real life works. It's certainly not how grown people operate when you are dealing with accountability.
Who were judging him when all this bad stuff was happening to him. And God later came and rebuked his friends and said, you did not say what was right. Okay? Do not judge other people regarding this. Okay? This was not, this was God revealing to me my problem. Okay? So now this is not the end of the story. Okay? I want to make sure I'm not skipping anything, so I'm just going to take a minute to look at my notes, okay? Okay. So, now it's fast forward to 2023.
Remember, God told her she didn't
that
believe.
Was in September 2022. And then,
so now we're in the next year.
Around the beginning of 2023, either January or February, I tried to look up the date, but there was no record that I could find that would tell me the date. But we had a friend come visit us, okay? Our friend Kevin, I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning his name, but our friend Kevin came to visit us, and I told Kevin the story about the legs. And Kevin had a very interesting reaction. He was like, let's do that right now. I want to see a leg grow. Let's do it right now.
Wow.
And I said, well, okay, then let's start with Jeremy. Let's do it with Jeremy, because I know Jeremy has a leg that's too short, right? And when I had prayed for Jeremy's leg, it hadn't grown. So we were like, Jeremy, please participate. And you have to understand, at this point, my husband is very reluctant about all this. He didn't believe me to begin with. And, he didn't get healed when I prayed for him. So he's very skeptical about this. So he's participating, but he's sort of like, half-heartedly participating. So I lifted up Jeremy's legs to pray for his legs. And lo and behold, his leg had grown. Okay. So it was already grown. So there was no difference between his legs anymore. And I was like, oh my gosh, his leg did grow. It did. It just didn't grow when I was holding it, but his leg grew. It's the same now.
Yo, that's yo, he got that centimeter after all. You know, it's her husband. So I gotta ask, is your leg growing, or are you just happy to see me? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Was it the way he sat in the chair that gave it that impression? I mean,
oh my goodness.
You know, we tried a couple ways to like position him to make sure I was like seeing it correctly, because
oh, she checked it out. Okay.
Maybe his hip was changed or something. I don't know. But no, his legs were exactly the same. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And Jeremy was just still kind of like sitting like this, okay? He wasn't sure about it. He was still very skeptical about it, okay? So anyway, we
have Jeremy on Hot Program.
Throw out thing on Kevin.
Oh, I did want to talk to that fool. She did like, I think maybe one video with him or something. And yeah, it'll definitely make you want to have the conversation. I have questions.
Okay. So then I wanted Jeremy to go with me to meet Tom and to go out and pray for people. And Tom was so nice. He agreed to meet with us. So in June of 2023, we went to go meet Tom, and Tom agreed to like talk to us for about an hour before we went out to pray for people, just to answer any questions that we might have. And so I was really excited to meet with Tom. And I told Tom, you know,
it's just so weird because Tom didn't respond to her email. That's why she got the answer from God that she didn't have enough faith. But maybe she emailed them again. Oh, Tom, my husband's leg grew. Let's, you know, it's just weird.
I said, you know, I emailed you about this, but I told him about the experience with the Afghan man.
Who is Tom, by the way?
Leg was an inch and a half too short, and I
MySpace
tried to pray for him, and it didn't grow. And I said, Tom, what really bothers me is I feel like if you had been there, it would have grown, and he wouldn't have had to have surgery.
What is that?
And he said,
that's straight out of the gospel.
The truth. If I
Jesus,
would have been there, it would
if you had been there,
right,
maybe he wouldn't have died.
Wow,
Lazarus.
Listen to this.
Have surgery. And he said, I'll tell you the truth. If I would have been there, it would have grown. You're right. And he wouldn't have had to have surgery.
This dude really think he has it. Like, he's like, I'm him. No, I'm the one. No, if I would have been there, yeah, I hate to say this. This was like some martial arts, right? And like the sensei, who's like the black belt, is like talking to their pupil who like just made yellow belt and thinks they're really doing something. It's like, yeah, that person whooped your ass because you ain't at my level. You ain't got it yet. You ain't really nice like that. You don't really understand this art yet. Damn, like Tom is crazy, yo.
And by the way, I have to interrupt
Tom's
my story to say I don't know if he ever had to have surgery, because I actually have not talked to the family about this.
Didn't follow up
since then.
But again, you ready to go to YouTube? See, that's how I'm trying to tell Rebecca's audience. See how y'all the product. Come on,
how you are a scientist,
but she didn't follow up. Yeah,
you are a scientist, Pocket Locker.
Can't imagine.
So it's like, okay, we have some data here, and we have a conclusion that we think is the summation of the data. So we're ready for peer review. Rebecca skips peer review and just publishes.
Exactly. That's exactly. But
she doesn't have your process.
Again, but see, this is where we got to stop letting these people off the hook, right? First off, we just live in the era of fact checking. Like, I'm sorry, you have to remember that these people will never let us move forward. They will never let culture progress and change if we stop. So we have to insist on where we're at now. We have to insist that we live in a different time, right? That this is not Bible times. Okay. And so look, you're supposed to fact check. Everybody knows this. You wouldn't accept this in any other area of your life. So it says something very specific about the way she operates that you don't want to check. First off, if you really believed in the miracle, you would be checking in all the time. If you really thought it happened, you'd be like, oh yeah, I wanted to check. Oh, how did it follow up? You know, like, wow, it's crazy. Like, it's just they don't look, because they know at some level that looking would reveal, would expose them, and then it wouldn't be useful anymore. See, this is what I mean when I say people weaponize plausible deniability. When I say people play dumb so they can stay dumb. She has to pretend to not know that how important that type of follow-up would be to verifying this story, so that she can continue to get over on people as a sincere person. You know what I'm saying? In other words, she's committed to the bit. And I'm sorry, Rebekah, that still makes you a liar. The difference, yes, people, because what Rebekah needs is for people to not know, is she sincere? Is she making this up? Is she like what it is? And she knows that she has to then therefore make decisions that are consistent with that. But once you do that, you've already told on yourself, because we know that you know better. And that's the part you can't get us to believe. Like, you can't get us to believe that somehow you really think this is what's happening and you're not following up on it. We're just not going to buy that.
So I don't know. I'm not in touch with them that much. Okay. So I haven't actually gone back and asked them, did he have to have surgery? So I actually don't know. So we don't know that he had to have surgery, but we do know that it didn't seem to grow the night that I prayed for it. But anyway, I was like, I know if you would have been there, it would have grown. And he was like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, but why didn't God do this? You know, like
for me,
you know, and I was
why
like,
wasn't I touched enough?
I felt like I had faith that night. And he was like, and then I kind of brought up and by the way, a lot of people get mad when they hear.
And this is what Sumami was saying. She doesn't care about these people being healed. It's about her having the power to channel God and being one of the special ones. And that's what she's mad about here. She's not mad that this person may have still needed surgery. She's mad that she didn't have the magic touch.
That he said, if I would have been there, it would have grown. And he kind of expanded on that. And he said, you know, and I said, why is that? And he said, well, because I've seen so many legs grow that I don't really have doubt anymore. And so I just know it's going to grow. So it's not even something I have to have faith for. Ridiculous. And I said, well, how come you don't have, like, how come I've seen you pray for other people, for things for other people, and people don't always get healed. They sometimes do, but they don't always get healed for other things. And he said, yeah, I know. He's like, I'm working on that. And he said, believe me, when I first started praying for people's legs, some grew, some didn't. And so I didn't always have faith for the leg at that time. And he said, but over time, I saw so many grow that my doubts started going away. And he said, I still have doubts for a lot of ailments. And he said, some of the ailments that I pray for, I've seen a lot of healing. And so now I'm more confident in those things. But he said, I went to Kazakhstan last month or recently, and they brought me 3 blind girls. And I thought, Lord, I can't do this. But all 3 of those blind girls got healed. So now my faith is growing for healing blindness. And he said, but I think he said, I've prayed for blind people since then, and they didn't get healed. So my confidence in that is not high enough yet. But when it comes to legs, I've seen more than 1,000 legs grow. So now I just know they're going to grow. There's no doubt. And I said, yeah, well, I felt like I was using your faith when I was praying for that lady's leg. And he said, you know, what you were doing is you were putting all your doubts on me, because you had someone to blame if things didn't go right. Like you just put all your doubts on me. And so, he said, don't worry about this. Like, you're going to grow in seeing this. You'll grow in confidence. And then, that's how it'll progress. Like basically, the more you do it, the more you pray for people, the more that God shows up and you see miracles, then that's the more confidence you're going to have, and the more often that people will get healed. And he said, I'm really sorry that I wasn't there when your Afghan friend needed a miracle. And he said, but we just have to trust in God. I've had experiences like that too, of disappointments when God didn't heal someone through me. So, and while we were there as well, my husband also kind of, at first, like I said, he was skeptical about the leg growing.
I want to, hang on. This is a good
we were
part.
talking to Tom and he was hearing from Tom about this, his skepticism started to lessen. And then it ended up going away, because right after that, we went out and we were going around praying for people. And my husband saw someone's leg grow. So his skepticism is gone. He believes it now. And so that's great. I'm going to look at my notes to see if I left anything out. So I guess now it's the practical application of this, okay? Because that is the end of the story.
Great.
But,
here we go.
And I recognize the difficulty of this story, but I wanted to share it because what the truth is, there's no limit on the amount of miracles that God will do for us. His love is so great. He wants to collaborate with us to heal the world. And what if the problem really is with us? And that's not to make us feel bad about ourselves, okay? We don't have to feel bad about ourselves. It's natural. We live in a world full of unbelief. Okay, so it's only natural that we would have so much unbelief when it comes to miracles. But remember how much Jesus encouraged us. He said, if you believe and do not doubt, you can say to the mountain, throw yourself into the sea, and it will obey you. He gave us plenty of reasons to believe that we are not limited in what God will do with his power when we are calling on his name. And, but Jesus said, when the Son of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? And I hope he will. I hope that we will believe and believe and believe more, so that those around the world who are needing their miracles will have a miracle worker.
Okay. Now,
So
I just want to go ahead.
Can I jump in first?
Yeah.
So Jesus never threw a mountain in the sea. What he did do is he allegedly commanded a bunch of pigs to go throw themselves into the sea.
Mm-hmm.
So we never see him do what he says somebody else can do. We never see other people do what he tells them they can do. We never see it. So in Acts, there's stories about where his disciples, the apostles, got some powers and were doing things. There's stories about Paul doing things. But today we just don't see it. Right? It's not our reality. It's not anyone's reality. That's it. That's all I had to say.
So I want to talk about why I call her a gaslighter. And again, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist, right? But when I look up gaslighting, it's like a form of psychological abuse or manipulation in which the abuser attempts to sow self-doubt and confusion in their victim's mind. Typically, gaslighters are seeking to gain power and control over the other person by distorting reality and forcing them to question their own judgment and intuition. Now, I don't know what's in Rebekah's heart, and I don't know what's in Rebekah's mind. All I get to see is Rebekah's behavior. And to me, because I think we have healthy debates, right? A lot of us think Rebekah's a liar. A lot of some of us don't, right? A lot of people think she's just genuine and she's just really that uninformed or whatever. But when it comes to this, I'm trying to point out when it doesn't matter, right? Because what she is doing is trying to get people who, like, and this is a very clear example, don't believe in leg lengthening miracles to believe in leg lengthening miracles, including her husband, right? And these people that they're running around healing at the mall or out in the park or wherever they're running around trying to heal strangers, right? Now she's trying to convince her audience that this has really happened, and to the point of being trivial, like, oh, God will extend it and put it back. Just, hey, just keep this between you. And you just want to show you real quick. All right, I'm gonna throw it back. Right? You know, like this is it's crazy. And she does do this to evangelize, and she gains influence of it. She has a growing channel. She and people treat her like their pastor. Like she's touched, like she's a very special woman of God, and she's super godly and awesome. So she does gain status and some modicum of influence and power over others. And so I just want to say that, like, that's where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to like say something crazy about her. I literally think she's gaslighting people. I think she is deliberately out to get people. And I think all faith people are when they start evangelizing, that's what they're doing, right? But like, to me, it just needs to be called out, especially because now she's on that Benny Hinn tip and she's a creationist. And so you put it all together, and that's who she is. She is she's smaller scale, right? But she's a televangelist effectively who has a master's degree in apologetics that she doesn't talk about a lot because, again, she knows that that's not part of the brand that she's trying to cultivate. She doesn't want to be seen as a typical apologist because she's an evangelist instead. Okay, but okay, then she call herself, you're a YouTube evangelist. Okay, we don't say tell. Come on, y'all. I'm not going to play word games with y'all. Y'all understand I'm saying it's the same thing, right? To be a YouTube evangelist versus a televangelist, and now promoting faith healing. And no, she's saying, I'm not saying that other people aren't experiencing miracles because they don't believe enough, but that's what worked for me, right? And that's how every product is sold. Okay, especially that's full of crap. So that's where I'm at with her. I want to make sure we have a little bit of time to touch on some other things that happen at different points in the stream that I think y'all will find very interesting. So let's do a couple of those, and I'll keep this pulled up to where it is in case we just want to go back to where we were. All right, but here's her addressing a comment from Titan Uranus.
Character enough, you know that they are not intentionally deceiving people.
All right, here we go. Let me pull it back to where she pulls it up.
This is faked all the time.
Actually, this is a good one too. Here we go.
Hi, Titan Uranus. Good to see you.
Also, y'all, part of this comes from the Titan comments. I was seeing like that's too, because I thought Titan was spot on, and she was just talking crazy when Titan's comments came up.
Lori Hayes says, I've been here for 1 minute. This is faked all the time. You don't really believe this, do you? Yes, I really do believe this. And I'm not saying it isn't faked sometimes, but it is not faked all the time. And so, yeah.
And again, like I had that pulled up in another clip. I just showed it there. Again, y'all, just think about what she's saying there. First off, think about the cognitive dissonance. I know this is a common scam, but this time it isn't.
It's real.
Like, I mean, I don't know what to do with that level of cognitive dissonance. That's extreme. And yet, like that, that's just wild to me. Why is she why is she like that? Oh, okay. So here was the other thing that bothers me with that. Again, Christians, take this with a grain of salt because I'm a former Christian. I am upset about it. Fuck your God. Because what kind of asshole would show off his power and his truth by doing something that scam artists and con men commonly do? Instead of showing us the real thing by doing something like healing an obvious cancer, healing somebody with like doing something verifiable that we know a con artist cannot do. Instead, your God insists on doing the most faked miracle on the fucking planet. And then it's on us to believe that Rebekah Davis's story is evidence that sometimes it's actually real.
Yeah.
That's insanity. All right, let's listen to how she responds to Titan.
Titan Uranus says, James Randi talked about the leg growing scam and how it works in his book. It's ancient. You know, and I've also seen Darren Brown try to show how this can be done. And yeah, I'm not saying it couldn't be done by pulling on someone's shoe, but I am saying that is not what happened in what I experienced. And I don't believe, you know, I don't believe Tom is a charlatan. I cannot see why or how he would be deceiving people in this way. He's not getting money for it. He's spending his time and energy going around and praying for people, and you know, he's not getting anything from it. So what would be the benefit for him? And not only that, you know, you get to know someone's character enough, you know that they are not intentionally deceiving people. All right. So Titan Uranus says you just wave your wand and say extension, reverse them. Yeah, it really was something like that. Okay.
And again, she's laughing. He's making Harry Potter jokes, right? Like, and she's like, yeah, it did actually seem like something out of a Harry Potter movie. Like, y'all, that's goofy. That's really goofy. And again, she's saying, think about it. I've seen Darren Brown do it. She's probably seen Holy Kool-Aid's video. She's very well aware that this is faked and just believes somehow, because she saw it with her own two eyes, that this is different. And that's just crazy to me. All right, so here, this next one is something that my one black for this one is I pulled especially for him because he's always talking about this, and it's so good to hear Rebekah actually talk about this.
Doesn't everyone? His kingdom is within you. Relax, Uranus.
And of course, the blessed bees of the world, they're out in Rebekah's chat and they're rejoicing and praising because, again, that's the type of company you attract with this type of nonsense.
Bro Guy says, I wish you could place an award with people for job problems. You would create more converts with people seeing God's power firsthand. You know, I've heard this objection a lot. A lot of people say, well, if people have these miracle working powers, why don't they go in and clear out the hospitals?
Gang, I just want to prepare you by saying you are not prepared for this response. All right, here we go.
I'm just letting you know I've tried that. Hospitals don't really like to let people in to go around to their patients and try to pray for them. Okay. But I have been let into one hospital to do that. And I did go and pray for people. And as far as I know, no one did get healed. Okay.
Yo, that's her out. Her out is the hospital doesn't really like unauthorized visitors, y'all. You know, it's just against hospital policy, you know?
She could go to certain hospitals, like with names of saints on them. They'll probably gladly let them in. But you know what? I would argue university-sponsored hospitals would too. Because think of it, if a university, let's say USC, right here in Los Angeles, if USC could definitively prove that faith healing works, they would get donations flying in the door to sponsor faith healers from various parts of the world who had the actual powers to heal people. Novartis, one of the medications I take is from Novartis. They'd be quaking in their boots. We're going to lose billions, guys, because some people can heal by laying on hands or praying. what's even better than that, we atheists would have to say, well, I'll give you that.
Right.
You
I had to
can't.
concede that. I had to concede the healing power of Jesus.
Yeah,
But again, what a narrative to spin. Because of course we've got a hospital, which is a building full of verifiable cases that were at the level of needing clinical or medical and sometimes emergency intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to deal with the realistic consequences of our limits of care, meaning not everybody in this building is going to make it or get healed, or it's the real deal. And then the notion that a building also being filled with people who have taken an oath to do those people no harm, have these people outside the building that could just lay hands on them and magically make all of their ailments go away, but they just won't let them in the building.
Mm-mm.
I mean, that is just, again, the cognitive dissonance, y'all. The what has the, and again, to say, I've thought of this before. This objection comes up a lot, and I've really spent some time thinking about it. They won't let us in the door is the best. That's the best I've got. And then again, also happens to have the experience of somehow or another actually getting into a hospital, doing the true believer thing, which is, hey, let me not waste a moment. Goes around praying for people, and as far as she knows, that's never actually worked.
Now, look, based on the statistically in the United States, based on the number of people who claim to be Christian, I can't imagine hospitals would say no, because administrators would be open to it in large numbers. Nurses in large, I don't suspect doctors would be, but you have plenty of people on
come
staff.
on now. We know that hospitals have full-time chaplains on staff.
Exactly.
Who presumably they are paying to go around and pray for people. And as far as we know, that has never yielded any result.
Well, I think I told you it happened to me after I had my new defibrillator put in. I'm at Ronald Reagan Medical Center, and the chaplain comes up, and I say, well, actually, sir, or father, whatever I call him, I'm an atheist. He goes, oh, you are? He was rather excited to have a conversation with me because I didn't believe. And we talked, I don't know how long he was there. He was there a while. We talked theology. And it was very interesting. So all those people are dying, not getting prayed for, while him and I are going over the Bible. It's one of those strange things that she's saying. If she would genuinely like to do it, she can give me the name of the hospital in which city it's in, and I'll make that happen. I'll get a yes where she's getting it.
Yeah, the worst you would get is particular people or patients in particular rooms that say, no, I don't need Miss Davis to pray for me today. And then she just goes on to the next room. So it's a load of BS. But then again, she also has the experience of having actually tried it and knowing it doesn't work, which is, by the way, that's why they don't let random Christians in the hospital. And so I don't know what to do with this. Like, at some level, what I was really thinking is, like, even the William Lane Craigs and the Sean McDowells and the Frank Turek's, the like name and apologists, they're not really going around pushing this faith healing narrative. I'm not trying to say they're fundamentally better people. It's just what to make of Rebekah. Like, and I mean that sincerely. Like, she's literally like a super weaponized young earth creationist in that sense. Now she's doing this whole faith healing thing. To be fair, like I said, it was Pride Month, and she sees herself as an ally. And largely, I want to, leave her alone with regard to that. But I do think even that is an example of this just flagrant cognitive dissonance that she has, because while she personally is an ally, I've heard her admit on air that she's never been to an affirming church. So it just, again, like, you're over here in a land that allows you to feel good about yourself, and I'm glad you're, you know, not a hate-filled person. But at the same time, if we were to get serious about the nature of the institutional problem and the what's really happening on a large scale, you would have to reflect very seriously on the fact that you've never been able to find an affirming church. But for Rebekah, like, it just, you just say what you want to say and go with what you want to go with, and it's the same thing. Now she wants to put out, and I remember this, like, when she, you know, because she's a young earth creationist, when I had her on my channel, just like a conversation I had with her, like after we had her on a hot program, and I really called her to task. Like, I want you to understand that your young earth creationism stuff I take very personally, because as an evolutionary biologist, you're crapping on our work. You're basically saying our work isn't real. You're saying that what we do doesn't matter. And you're basically saying all the evidence that we've produced isn't there. I said it would be like if your partner, you know, went out in the back of your house and built the greenhouse and then built the canopy with trees and plants and flowers and all this stuff. And you went out there and you looked around and you said, what trees, what flowers? Like, I don't see anything. That's what they're doing to us. Literally pretending like our work doesn't exist. And it's incredibly dehumanizing. And she genuinely seemed to feel bad about that. And she went on her channel and said she was going to consider how strongly she came out against evolution, because she doesn't want to be seen as insulting or hurting her friends that are scientists. And she feels really bad about that. And she apologized. And then she said she's going to think about it. Well, what did she do? She thought about it. And she came back more anti-evolution than ever before. And made sure everybody understood that she thinks being anti-evolution is in some ways more important to her than spreading the gospel of Jesus. These are Rebekah's words, not mine. So again, it just shows you she wants to be able to be a part of the problem, be as anti-something as she needs to be when it comes to maintaining harmony with her in-group. But then she wants to turn around and make sure nobody takes that personally, and you know that she personally doesn't have any animosity. And it makes the quote unquote allyship of a person like that very, very superficial and meaningless, because you just realize that they're not serious about helping create the world that we're trying to live in and create the change that we need. Instead, it's just more about them feeling good about who they are, and them feeling like they're somehow better than the group that they're clearly aligned with. So this type of stuff is frustrating when you deal with Rebekah.
I have the best car I've ever owned is a car I currently own. I've had about 50 cars in my lifetime. I drive a 2008 Prius. It's my daily driver. My car is old, obviously. The check engine light comes on. I plug in a dongle which reads the code, and it tells me what the car says is wrong. It says, look, your catalytic converter is old. You have to replace it. I've been driving with this light coming on for about 4 years. Last year, I had to pass smog with this car in California. So I needed the check engine light not to turn on and tell the technician that I needed a new catalytic converter. I needed his equipment to read my car as a car that did not need a catalytic converter. When I went to take the car in for the test, the light turned off. The car stopped indicating that it needed a new catalytic converter when you ran the codes. I go get it smogged, no problem, no light, tested fine, it's clean. A few days later, the light came back on, I plug in the dongle, it says, you need a catalytic converter. Now what I mentioned. It's been doing years ago. It said I needed one, but that light goes on and off. It decides sometimes, nah, you don't really need one. No, you
Right.
do. No, you don't. You do. And so it's off and on. I don't know what I'm gonna get, right? I finally bought a replacement one. I haven't put it on yet, but I bought a replacement one. But the vehicle, if I'm a Christian and I'm praying that it'll pass smog, it just did. The light went off. It didn't come back on when the technician was testing it. My prayer, if I'm a Christian, would have gotten answered, and it wouldn't have anything to do with God. It's just the nature of the diagnostics of the car, maybe the outside air temperature, maybe the gas stations that I've been going to. Maybe one gasoline is a little bit better grade than another, and there are all these other factors that have nothing to do with the divine looking down on my Toyota and saying, "Ah, yes, what a fine automobile that Prius is. It's getting a little long in the tooth, but today you get a license plate sticker. I'm going to let you pass small." That's not what's happening. It's just the way the car is. So for Rebekah, believing the story when the moments are right, when it's beneficial for her to have faith, it's wonderful. If when I'm driving my car and the light comes on, I'm like, oh crap. When she's trying to heal somebody and the leg doesn't grow, oh crap. Why doesn't it grow? I had all this enthusiasm about the quality of my prayers. It's not working. Then randomly it does. Her husband's leg, it appears, Jeremy's leg grew. So God answered it eventually. It's probably the way he was.
So Kata said she still deletes every time I comment with helplines to LGBTQIA plus services on her video. That says a lot. I just think, again, I think that whole thing's problematic. That's probably, something we could do a whole show about another day. But yeah, and I think that's another hard thing, right? Because for a lot of LGBTQIA plus people, they got beef with Christianity because that's where so much of the bigotry against them is coming from. And Rebekah will just block most of the people from that community just because they're atheists and she doesn't like what they have to say about her faith. And again, she just gets to avoid dealing with the realities of the issue and where they really stand. So again, of course, it's better than her being hateful herself, but there's no consistency. And I think Kata's point highlights what I've been saying, is that type of allyship, quote unquote, doesn't feel sincere. All right, so here's another thing that I think is worth checking out. Let's go back to when this first gets on the
Feeding our he says you think you're. I believe that is not true. I think that you are wrong. I can't prove it, but I think you're wrong.
All right, weird. Let's go back. Let's do this one.
Titan says nobody has ever seen a missing limb regrow. I think that's not. I believe that is not true. I think that you are wrong. I can't prove it, but I think you're wrong.
Titans out here trying to fight the good fight. But this is the point. Think about, y'all, I got to tell you, that's gaslighting. Like, when I tell you this miraculous thing happened and we recorded it on video, I just don't happen to have the video. Come on, that's just, and this is what I mean about Rebekah. She's weaponized, and it's just at a point where me personally, I don't think it matters anymore. I don't think it matters what her intent is. I don't think it matters if she's sincere or not. Look, here's the analogy I thought of earlier. If I decided that I was going to go along with the KKK conspiracy, we were going to, they decided to terrorize a black family by burning a cross in their yard. Okay. Does it matter to you if I genuinely hate black people, if I'm just going along for the social experience, if I'm really just caving to peer pressure, or maybe I just find hope, meaning, and purpose and celebrating my evangelical white identity in America. Does anybody care? No. I'm on my way to Home Depot to grab timber in lighter like lighter fluid, right? And that's the problem. And that's Rebekah. Rebekah is the young earth creationist who wants all your LGBTQIA plus friends to hop in the back so she can take them to the Christian faith healing conference. And I'm not with it. Like, right? And wants to do nothing but trash Darwin all the way there, right? Like I like it's again, I don't know what to do about people like this, but they're not helping. I can tell you that much. All right, here's another one I wanted y'all to hear.
Jenny says, you, Jeremy, and the children are amazing. I'm always thankful that God sent you to us, feeding our souls. God is doing miracles in my life in his perfect time. Just believe him. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I brought this comment because I want y'all to see the reality that her evangelizing works in the sense. Bread of Life, she sees basically as a ministry that she is the pastor of. And there are plenty of people in her audience who basically say things like this all the time, that she's like a pastor to them. They come to her for guidance, and they just, you know, an inspiration. So she, again, y'all, I'm just trying to hammer home on this televangelist thing. This is how she portrays herself. I'm not being unfair to this person. This is a person who's trying to use these type of positions, being, you know, this faith healing nonsense, young earth creationism, all that type of stuff, to build a ministry that she is at the top of, that has influence. She even had a person on this very stream who asked her to pray for her because she needed $200. And Rebekah says, oh, I'll just email me and I'll give you the $200 because, you know, what if God means for me to be the blessing that you need to get this $200? So there's some heavy entanglement going on with her audience. And I think it's fair to criticize her because of just how problematic all of this is. Yeah, I think that's where I'm at with this. Where are you are you at with all of this?
Well, it's clear, you might remember from high school or maybe middle school, choose your own adventure stories. Where you are presented with, let's say the character in a book walks into a room. Do they, and they hear a sound. They hear a strange sound, like someone's broken into their home. Do they pick up a hatchet? Or do they hide under the bed? If you hide under the bed, go to page 63. If they pick up the hatchet, just turn to the next page. Different things happen based on those options. And that's how you get a different book every time you read it. You just select something differently than you did a previous time. And you can read the same book and enjoy it many, many times. Well, with Rebekah and maybe many other people of faith, that's how they're approaching life. Well, this time, because it's a Hindu person having that experience, I'm not going to believe it was Jesus. So I'm going to just go ahead and flip to page 63 and get the experience that I know, because I know that's going down the Christian road. That's how I'm going to view it. And I think she's doing that with this whole healing, leg lengthening stuff. She's choosing, right, what is going to strengthen her faith. Even being wrong, even not being able to heal someone. When she finally got back to communicating with Tom's reassurance that it was because he wasn't there reinforced the idea that the system works. this leg lengthening stuff really works, but it doesn't, even if she wants it to. So I think many of us, when we talk to people still on their faith journeys, we may be seeing some of this, and this might be a good model to use in order to have those discussions. If you want to, you might not want to have those discussions. Me, I eat this religious stuff up. I love it. But some people just want to go about their day and they don't want anything to do with it. No, I don't want to hear about Jesus or God or making one leg longer than the other. You know, can you add zeros to my bank account and put them before the decimal point? You know, can you make me wealthier? Can you make me healthier? Can you make me happier? And I don't have to pay God anything but some attention. No, they can't. They can't.
Yeah, I think this faith healing thing has always been charlatanry or charlatans.
Charlatanry? I don't know what the word is.
Charlatanry. Yeah, I don't know. It's, you know, it's always been a con, and you know, I kind of just want to touch on that ableism again, and I think it's there in the Bible. And basically now, even when I think of those stories, I see a con artist taking advantage of people, and I see a faith built on using that to sell him. Because so much of what keeps people in the faith, what they think is so special about Jesus, is that he was unique in that sense that he took human form, and then he showed this concern for humans and their needs and their interests, and then he had these magical powers, right? So I actually think belief in faith healing is ubiquitous in Christianity. I think Rebekah's moving towards an end of the spectrum that's far more intense and, like, you know, literal about it. But I think most believers are conditioned to think that they should lean on their faith ultimately when it comes to, you know, needing to be healed or needing help. And they also are conditioned to believe that when they don't get it, it's not because God can't do it. It's because they don't believe enough. And this is one of the most sinister and vile aspects of Christianity. And I just think it's a lot more commonplace than we think. But it's really insidious to see Rebekah getting into this. And again, I just don't think she cares. She really just wants to build this ministry or whatever that she's doing, and effectively she's a grifter.
That could be.
What's up, YouTube punk? So look, before we get out of here, y'all, please don't forget to check out the support for Lina. Jelina's just having a real hard time right now, and we want to, you know, surround her with community and send her some love to help her get through a really hard time. You know, churches, like I say, they pass around that plate on Sunday, and they're able to raise support for people who are in a time of need. And we just need to do our best to do that in our community. So PC, if you wouldn't mind dropping the GoFundMe link again. I've also got the Ko-Fi link in the description. So if you're watching later, just check out the link in the description. Yeah, I really appreciate all y'all for contributing. That's definitely the most important thing I would like people to take away from this, is just our need to be there for each other. And I appreciate everybody that's thinking about donating or helping us spread the word. Yeah, my concluding thoughts about Rebekah, y'all, are like, I don't know. Like, for those that don't know, like, my journey with Rebekah really started like seeing her as one of very few Christians that actually participated in atheist spaces and in atheist communities. And I really valued her presence, and, you know, I thought she was a very genuine person in that there was something productive that could come out of that type of engagement. But since then, it's just like every time I peel back a layer to that onion, it stinks more. And I just want to cry. Maybe that was more spot on of an analogy than I thought it would be. Because it just, you know, I first I didn't realize she had a channel, right? Then I find her channel and I realize, oh, your channel's like one of those apologetics channels. Like, you say it's evangelism and that you're just trying to spread the word of Jesus, but when I look at all your content, it's just apologetics. Oh, then it turns out you have you play naive. She used to play naive, like, oh, you know, I could be one of the cool kids if I could just let go of my YEC, but I don't know. And then it turns out she has a whole second channel devoted to debunking evolution, and, you know, she's bringing in all these creationist content creators to platform them and stuff like that, you know. And then it's okay, you know, and then still playing like always the naive, I don't really know what I'm up to. Then I find out she has a master's degree in apologetics. So, you know, and these are things that, like, a sincere person puts all that type of stuff, you know, up front. Yeah. You know, they put it up front in the open. It's not stuff you got to watch them for like 1,800 hours for them to let slip at different times when they think it's not really the topic of conversation. So it's hard for me to believe that she's a genuine person, because she doesn't act like a genuine person in my estimation. And I think part of the problem on our side is we just don't have a lot of people to engage with. And so we don't have a lot of options. Like, we don't, because I think if we really had more of an opportunity to engage with believers who were sincere, we probably would have just left Rebekah alone a long time ago, because we've all taken our shot at sort of getting her to come around, and it's just apparent she's not going to do that. And that's the other thing, like, and Sumami said this, you know, this is a grown ass adult, and it gets to a point where you're feeling bad for somebody can only take you so far, because at this point it's them. Like, at this point, they're the one doing it. They're the one evangelizing, and they have some responsibility for the fact that people have tried to correct them. You know, when I was a believer, nobody ever gave me an ounce of effort to try to deconstruct my belief or tell me that a lot of the things I believe was wrong. I had to discover that on my own. And then I had to also discover the moral courage to face it on my own and to deal with it, and to then be responsible for what I had learned, what I had seen, what had been revealed to me. Rebekah, almost every single thing she does has people in her chat and her comments who I know she has relationships where there's, you know, even email and relationships and things like that off platform that she's engaged with, and people are always bringing her reasonable feedback and pushback, and she never really changes in any meaningful way based on any of that. And so I think at some point, again, it's reasonable for people around you to just determine that you're a waste of time and that you're not really serious about this. But yeah, that's my thoughts. My one by friends, is anything else you want to get in here before we wrap up?
Thank you for putting all this together, first of all, and thanks everyone for watching and commenting. I don't have anything else to add. Your journey with her is a lot different than mine. I've seen just a handful of videos from her. Saw her on Pine Creek. She came on the Hot Program. I was very grateful.
See, that's
that
the
she
thing.
did that.
And back then, I thought Pine Creek was cool. I'm not cool with Pine Creek either. So now that whole scene was problematic. I have questions about myself, like, but
well,
you know,
if you don't,
things change.
If you don't know enough, you know what you don't like. But if you don't see that out of a person, you don't know that you won't like them. You know?
That's right. That's
and now
right.
you're discovering those things about Rebekah, and here I am seeing them too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I don't have any, there's nothing I'm going to say to her. Excuse me. There's nothing I'm going to say to her that's going to make her change her ways.
Yeah.
Because
me
there's a
either, for
benefit
that
to
matter.
staying this way. If she is generally delighted to be a Christian and wants to, I guess, conduct herself in the way that you've been seeing her conduct herself, there's no reason for her to stop, right? She's enjoying it. It gives her life meaning and purpose. So keep that train going. And in case we're all wrong, and some of that Bible stuff isn't horse feathers, I sent Pocket Logger something I saw on the internet. There's a clip, I don't know if it's Facebook or Instagram. There's a minister talking about the first word in the Hebrew Bible, Bereshit. And he's going on and on about all these things that Bereshit mean. And if you break it down, he's talking about each letter in the word Bereshit.
Oh my goodness.
My reply was something on the order, it's the last syllable, the final syllable of the word Bereshit that is the chief indicator of how I can evaluate much of the other information given in the Bible.
Exactly.
So
bullshit, man.
For Rebekah, it's the same as far as, from our point of view. There's some Bereshit there that she's
That's right.
she's
some Bereshit. Rebekah, there's some Bereshit in these leg lengthenings. All right.
Level is relevant.
All right, y'all. Thanks
That's
so much
it.
for tuning in. If you're watching later on, leave us a comment, like the video, subscribe to the channels. Appreciate all that. Don't forget there's links in the description to show support to Lina. Thank y'all all so much for that. I really appreciate it. And we'll be hanging out and gather as always. Be good to yourselves
and each other.